Hi, I'm Christina, and this is a book review of The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley. So this is a science fiction novel. It was published in 2024 and it has been shortlisted for the Climate Fiction Prize in 2025, which is why I am reading it now. I have been really enjoying following the Climate Fiction Prize, and this is my third book from the shortlist. So let me tell you a little bit more about this novel. This is her debut novel, and our main character currently works in the languages department in the Ministry of Defence. And she is going for a new job, and it is an internal posting, and it seems to be going well. She's up to the 6th round of interviews, and she doesn't exactly know what the job is because security clearance is required for the role, which she does not have, so she doesn't 100% know what the role is, but she knows it's going to pay her a lot more than she's earning now, so she's very interested in it. And this is when we first meet her. And when you start the book, you are faced with this map, which is a very interesting map, and this is titled The End of the Expedition, and it's following Franklin's lost Arctic expedition, which I do know a little bit about. I have watched the TV show, which I enjoyed, and I know a little bit about the history. So essentially, she gets this job, and the job is called a bridge. And you are basically monitoring and looking after someone who is essentially a refugee of time. So in this story, time travel exists, and the British government have access to time travel. And what they are proposing to do with that is rescue people from the past who died in their timelines in kind of major events, and then bring them to the present day and kind of observe them, train them, do lots of tests on them. And it's her job to be one of the bridges, and she is going to be assigned to one of these people. 7 people have been extracted from the past and brought to the present day. 2 of them died during the extraction process, so 5 people have travelled through time. We are referring to these people as expats, and the expat that our main character is assigned to is called Commander Graham Gore, and he is from Franklin's lost Arctic expedition, which is the map from the very beginning of the story, and he is 37 years old. And he and all the men on this expedition died. And when they brought him to the present day, they had to treat him for pneumonia, frostbite, broken toes, scurvy. They have kind of nursed him back to health, essentially. And there are 4 other people that they have brought through time. And I have my notes so I can tell you. We have a woman from 1665, and she's from the Great Plague in London. We have a man from 1645, and he is from a battle. We have another man from 1916, and he's from the Battle of the Somme. And then we have a woman from 1793, and she's from the French Revolution. So in their timelines, all of these people naturally died. So they've decided to pick people who died in their timelines so as to not kind of make any issues down the line, because essentially they would have been dead in their timeline, so they're not really changing anything by bringing them from that time period into this time period. Now, I will say that I had really, really high expectations for this book. I absolutely love time travel. It's one of my favourite genres, any kind of movie, TV show, book, anything with time travel, and I'm really, really interested in it. I really, really love that as a genre. However, I will say that there wasn't actually that much time travel in this, really, and essentially these 7 people have travelled through time, and 2 of which have died, so 5 have done so. But the book doesn't really explore the idea or the concept of time travel too much. It's more just something that has happened, which we then don't really continue to explore. So I would say it's kind of surface level exploration of time travel. It's not really kind of like explored very much, I would say. Another thing I would say is I was going into this expecting a pretty kind of straightforward science fiction, when really there's a very, very large kind of romance kind of going on in here. And I wouldn't say this is a romance book, but I would say that the central point of the story is the love story between two characters. And I generally speaking don't really read romance books. I was going into this more for the science fiction story, more for the time travel, when really I think a lot of the central focus of this story is this kind of slow burn romance between two characters. And I will say there was a couple of times when I got a little bit bored with the romance. I'm not always as interested as reading that, and it was a very, very kind of slow build romance. And there were times in the middle of the story where I was a little bit bored of that, and I wanted to do more of the kind of time travel things and more of the science fiction side rather than this kind of romance. The other thing I will say as well is there was a couple of times when the dialogue didn't really work for me. Obviously, she has people from hundreds of years, and she does kind of write in the appropriate kind of dialogue and make them talk in a certain way. But when I was reading it, it didn't really work for me. I just kind of felt like it was taking me out of a story a little bit. And there was one woman in particular, just the way that she spoke, it didn't really work for me. But I appreciate the idea that she has to do that because that's from the time period that they are from. Also, I will just say that they always just kind of felt like characters in a story for me. I never really felt particularly connected to any of them. None of them really felt like real people to me. Kind of felt a little bit like a caricature or such. It never really touched me emotionally or particularly hit me hard. So even when some kind of big things are happening, I didn't really have much of an emotional impact on me because I wasn't really that connected to the characters. And like I say, they never really felt like real people for me. They did just feel like characters in a story. So I've decided to give this one 3 stars overall. I'm really glad that I read it. It's a good book, it's okay, but I didn't really have that kind of emotional connection with anyone. And like I said, I was hoping for more science fiction, more discussion of the time travel, more exploration of that. And probably for me personally, less of the kind of slow build romance because I wasn't particularly as interested in that part. So for a book that is about time travel, there actually is very little time travel in here, and I did find that disappointing and a bit underwhelming because that is why I picked up this book. And obviously it's called The Ministry of Time, so I was expecting it to have a larger focus in the story. I will also say that I found that it kind of dismissed the complexities of time travel, and at the very start of the book it kind of just said don't worry about it. So I will just read you the quote. It says, "Anyone who has ever watched a film with time travel or read a book with time travel or disassociated on a delayed public transport vehicle considering the concept of time travel will know that the moment you start to think about the physics of it, you are in a crock of shit. How does it work? How can it work? I exist at the beginning and end of this account simultaneously, which is a kind of time travel, and I'm here to tell you, don't worry about it. All you need to know is that in your near future, the British government developed the means to travel through time, but had not yet experimented with doing it. In order to avoid the chaos inherent in changing the course of history, if history could be considered a cohesive and singular chronological narrative, another crock of shit, it was agreed that it would be necessary to extract people from historical war zones, natural disasters and epidemics." So yeah, I was really hoping for further exploration of time travel, and in the first kind of 5 pages it was just kind of dismissed and said, if you want to know more about the time travel, like, don't worry about it, we're not going to get into it. So I was a little bit disappointed because I was really excited to see how she was going to explore that, and maybe to see how time travel had been invented, the histories, the people involved, all the kind of implications of that politically, legally, morally. I was really excited for all of that, and none of that was really explored, which I was a little bit disappointed by. Also, I read this book now because it has been shortlisted for the Climate Fiction Prize, but I will just say I wouldn't really call this climate fiction personally. I would probably call this science fiction, light science fiction, definitely. And I might even go so far as to say this is a romance novel because there is a love story at its heart. But I wouldn't really say this is climate fiction. There are some elements of climate fiction, but not so much as I would say that's its main genre. Now, it is kind of alluded to that there is a climate catastrophe in the future, but it's not really on the page. It's more just something that is known and kind of alluded to. It's not really fully explored. And there's also kind of a climate crisis in the present. There's kind of references to the summers being very, very hot, etc. But I wouldn't say that the climate fiction side was a central theme. And I wouldn't say it was particularly explored. I would say it's just kind of more surface level. It's just kind of there. So I'm not 100% sure why it has been included on the Climate Fiction Prize, because I don't think there's enough of that really to warrant its inclusion on the prize. But I'm still glad that I read it, because I was going to read this anyway. I bought this book last year before it was even shortlisted for the Climate Fiction Prize. So I was definitely going to read it at some stage because I already owned it and I was already excited to read it. And that was because it had the time travel aspect. But yeah, in terms of being on the Climate Fiction Prize, I don't think there is quite enough. For me, personally, I've read quite a few books now that would be considered climate fiction, and generally speaking, the climate crisis and the climate catastrophe is a central theme. So one of the other books that I read from the shortlist is called Briefly Very Beautiful, and the entire story is devoted to the climate catastrophe, and we are watching a woman and her children trying to survive in this changing world with the climate catastrophe and going through motherhood in a climate catastrophe. And I would absolutely say that's climate fiction. It was its central theme. It affected everything, the way people thought, the way people acted. Whereas here, this was just more of a, just kind of how it is. I don't know, it wasn't really fully explored. Anyway. So yes, that was my thoughts on this one. I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. I've given it 3 stars. But yeah, a little bit disappointed and a little bit underwhelmed overall, because I was expecting to really, really love this book because, like I said, I love time travel and it didn't really have enough of that for me personally. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. If you have liked the video, please do like it. If you'd like to hear more of me talking about books, please do subscribe. And if you have read this, I would absolutely love to know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Were you expecting there to be more time travel, or did you really enjoy what was there and the love story and the romance? I would love to know what you thought of it. All right, see you in my next one.